Hi, this is Mac Pritchard. I had a cycling accident recently and broke several bones. While I recover, I need to take a short break from podcasting. So, through March 3rd, we're sharing some of our most popular interviews from the last 5 years. I hope you enjoy them, and thank you for being a listener. This is Find Your Dream Job, the podcast that helps you get hired, find the career you want, and make a difference in life. I'm your host, Mac Pritchard. I'm also the founder of Mac's List. It's a job board in the Pacific Northwest that helps professionals find fulfilling careers. One of the best ways to get good at job hunting is to talk to people who do it well. That's why once a month, I interview a Mac's List reader who found a dream job. Today, I'm talking to Alisyn Maggiora. She's a portfolio coordinator at the Northwest Energy Efficiency Alliance. It's a collaboration of 140 utilities and efficiency organizations headquartered here in Portland, Oregon. Alisyn Maggiora knows that you can't get a career you can love by happenstance. Instead, you must know what you want. And then you need to find the opportunities that will help you get there. In a story you can find on the Mac's List website, Alisyn says that a clear goal and the connections she made during her search led to the job she loves. She joins us today in person at the Mac's List studio in Portland, Oregon. Alisyn, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mac.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you. Now, you're a portfolio coordinator for the Northwest Energy Efficiency Alliance. Tell me, Alisyn, why do you love your job?
I love my job because I love the company that I work for, and a lot of that has to do with the culture there and the people and the support that I've received to grow and develop my career there.
Okay. Well, you've been with the Northwest Energy Efficiency Alliance for more than 2 years now. Why is this such a good fit for you?
Again, that comes back to my answer from question one, the culture. But more importantly, it's the mission. So our focus is on bringing more energy efficient products to market more quickly. And energy efficiency is a really important facet of our demand for energy, and that all ties into climate change. So that's what drives my love for being there.
How did you find the job, Alisyn?
Well, I definitely found it on Mac's List. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and when you saw the listing, what happened next?
At that point, I had been doing some networking and started talking to a couple of people about the position and just digging in to see if anybody knew anybody at the Northwest Energy Efficiency Alliance and how I might be able to connect further, find a little bit more about the company beyond just what you might read on their website, get a little insight into culture.
And you did all that before you sent in your application, didn't you?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what would you say to listeners who might see a listing and they know they should probably reach out to people inside an organization or maybe in the field? How did you go about that? Did you know somebody inside the Alliance offices, or did you know people in the field? Tell us about that.
So at that point, once I found the job listing, I had been, as I said earlier, I'd been networking a bit, volunteering for a couple different conferences that were in the energy field, and just trying to build a web of networked people that I could not only converse about the industry, but try to build additional connections. There was one person in particular that I had connected with around that time that I had started working on my application for this position, and just asked her for coffee and found out that she had a lot more influence in our company than I had even ever thought. So some of it was a little bit of magic, but a good portion of that was just spending a lot of dedicated time building that network web.
And so you knew you wanted to work in the energy efficiency world. You volunteered at several conferences, and that helped you meet people in this sector.
Yeah.
What else did you do to grow your network inside the field you wanted to be in?
Informational interviews. So as I kind of think of that as part of the networking process, But through building that web, connecting with people, I would do informational interviews, not just with people with the Northwest Energy Efficiency Alliance, but other related organizations that may either have touch points with them or know a little bit about them. And I found the informational interview process to be critical. It's amazing what comes out of a conversation, far more than just an email. And I got some really good tips and tricks about certain things I should read to get more up to speed on, what the Northwest Energy Efficiency Alliance deals with. And then out of every informational interview, I always ask at the end, who else should I talk to? And so you're just, again, reinforcing that web building.
What would you say to listeners who might think, if I ask that question, people are going to say, I don't know, or they'll be reluctant to share names. What was your experience?
Sure. I was not ever met with reluctance. I think maybe I got I'm not sure. Let me think about that and get back to you. If people are reluctant, that's fine. They're not going to give it to you. But I found probably 98, 99% of the time, no issue. You're asking that at the end of a conversation. And during that conversation, my intention was to glean more about that person as well. It wasn't all about me, right? So it's just showing up as someone who's interested in what they do. It's sort of that tit-for-tat value-add approach. And when you've given people an opportunity to share about themselves, which everybody loves to talk about themselves, you're sort of indicating like, okay, you've had your share, now can I get a share? So I think just in that sort of value exchange, it was never a problem. I didn't experience it. And my advice would be, keep at it. Try it. If someone gives you the decline, fine, respect that. If they say, maybe let me follow up with you, be sure to follow up with them. They may be busy and they may forget. It doesn't mean that they don't want to follow up with you.
Now, let's step back. When you were doing a search, and I'm inferring that the Northwest Energy Efficiency Alliance was on your list. Was that the only place you were looking, or were you looking for opportunities in the field?
I was looking for opportunities in the field.
Okay.
They were one of many in the list that I was, just sort of working through as potential companies in this realm of nonprofit energy work, and so just the right opportunity, the right kind of job position came up that fit well with my past experience. And so then the next task was really to convince them that even though I didn't have any energy industry experience, that I was worth a hire.
Okay. I want to talk about that because a lot of people want to change sectors and they struggle with that. But let's step back one more step, which is your goal. You knew you had a clear goal, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
How'd you get, what was the goal and how did you settle on that? Because we all have multiple interests. I know you do as well. What was your goal and how did you pick it?
So my goal was, I'll try to make this succinct. I had done my undergrad in environmental economics, and then the subsequent 10-ish years, I had found myself doing admin work. And I knew that when I was about to graduate with my MBA that I wanted to pivot my career and come back to something environmentally related. And I had done several research projects around energy, Tesla, that kind of stuff. And I thought, wow, this could be the perfect next step. So I knew I wanted to get into energy. I didn't know exactly how. I knew I wanted to pivot my career and capitalize on my admin experience. But I wasn't sure how exactly I was going to approach that. So what I did was say, okay, energy industry is the sector, but what I want is to find an organization that is nimble enough or supports the need for kind of filling gaps. And in the nonprofit sector, that is by and large the case because there's always more work to be done than there is people to do it. So being really thoughtful about what are the kinds of organizations that will facilitate where you want to go or the kind of work that you want to do and the culture that supports that, I think is just as critical as wanting to work in the technology industry or the energy industry or whatever it may be.
And how did you get to that point, Alisyn? I mean, it's very clear.
Yeah.
What kind of steps did you take? Did you do self-assessment? Did you work with a coach? Did you talk to colleagues?
So I had a special circumstance because the final course in my MBA program, this was partly my project. But I think there are some really good tips and tricks that I got out of that can be applicable to anybody. You don't need to go through an MBA program to do that. So some key things. One, get really clear. If you're not sure exactly what you want to do, get really clear about your mission, your purpose, your vision, your values. Highly recommend, I'm going to do a plug, and I don't get any royalties for this. There is a small workbook called Brand You. It's a purple book. It has a thumbprint on the front. I couldn't tell you the author's name, but it is a workbook that allows you to walk through all these exercises and get really serious and clear about that. That enabled me to get really clear and serious about my mission, my purpose, my elevator pitch. So when I was chatting with people over coffee and networking, I was very succinct, composed. I knew exactly what I wanted. And that in itself, I think, has a really big impact on how you show up with people. And they respect that. And they see you as very serious about what you want to do. So I did this work on the side to figure out what I really want to do. And then I had to create a list of 30 different companies that I wanted to work for and why.
This was an exercise in the book.
That was not an exercise in the book. That was an exercise for my class.
Okay.
But these two things were foundational. And you don't need a class to do that. They were foundational in me getting really clear about what I wanted and then the kinds of organizations that would facilitate what I was after. So knowing I needed to pivot my career, wanting to build on my past admin experience, wanting to get into the energy industry, knowing I wanted to start growing what I was doing into more of a facilitation, leadership coaching type role, but not having any skill set around that and wanting to serve a greater mission purpose of being environmentally connected.
So you had a very clear goal.
Yep.
You knew you had a list, it wasn't a short list, but it was a finite list of companies where you wanted to work.
Yep.
How did you make that pivot, Alisyn? Because you were talking to people in an industry where you didn't have experience. What did you do that was persuasive?
In terms of being persuasive, I would say that being clear, again, coming back to those, getting clear about what you want, what you're after, where you want to go, that was the piece that was persuasive. The connections, that networking piece, I think was vital to me pivoting and actually getting this position because I was way overqualified for the job that I came in at. My boss has told me, we've had conversations about it, she was not going to consider me. And it is because I networked and connected with several different people and found this gal that had a lot of significant influence in our organization. Unbeknownst to me, she was retired. Anyway, she gave me a recommendation, put a good word in for me with two primary people in our company. I did informational interviews with them, and I wrote my boss an email in addition to trying to make a very persuasive argument in my cover letter about here's my skill set, here's where I want to go, here's what I'm really passionate about. Even though you may think I'm crazy for wanting to apply for an admin assistant job with an MBA, here's why I want to do it, and I want to grow with your company. And that was the compelling argument.
Okay. That's terrific. Now tell me, what didn't work at your search?
You know, Mac, I spent some time thinking about this.
Okay.
And I hope this doesn't come off as like cheesy or like a Passover,
okay.
But there really wasn't anything that didn't work. I would say that's not to say I didn't have struggles, but there wasn't anything that didn't work because I just kept at what I knew I wanted. Again, so like filtering all of these different opportunities that I would come across through the lens of, does this match my goal? And that saved me a lot of time and energy and stress.
Because you weren't applying for positions that might have interested you or you could have done, but you had a crystal clear focus about where you wanted to be.
Yeah, exactly.
You were recently promoted to a new position,
yes.
And I can imagine listeners out there thinking, okay, you went to graduate school, you probably spent a lot of money, maybe took out loans, we don't have to talk about that, and then you took a job as an administrative assistant. Uh-huh. But I'm inferring from our conversation that was with the goal of getting your foot in the door.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now are you
Yes.
seeing the benefits of that approach?
Absolutely.
Tell us more about that.
So I'd say really some of the benefits I'm reaping from this are I guess how I'm getting to that point is I'm still very intentional about what I want to do. And in September, I started voicing to colleagues that I was really interested in building facilitation skills and recognizing the gap for that within our organization. So I spent the first year and a half in that role, kind of building a foundation, understanding, how we really operate, building friendships, relationships, making myself credible within the organization, and then starting to capitalize on where those gaps were. So just having conversations, expressing that intention, and it came out of a side ways that I had no idea was going to come, but it did. And again, that's why I reinforce, I think, so many things happen for a reason as a result of conversations. You have to put that intention out there.
Well, Alisyn, what's your number one job hunting tip?
I would say get really clear, first and foremost, about what you want to do as it relates to your mission, your values, your vision, and then think really thoughtfully about what kind of organizations are going to support that. The culture, too, is really important, but that's kind of you can't quite grasp that until you're actually in the organization. Sometimes you can, maybe someone, maybe you have some history with that, but really you have to just test it out for yourself, and sometimes that's a gamble. So get clear about what you want and where you think you can do it, and give it a try.
Well, thank you for sharing your story, Alisyn.
It's my pleasure.
To learn more about Alisyn Maggiora's job search, visit maxlist.org/stories. And check out the MaxList website for dozens of other success stories. Every Friday, we add a new interview with a MaxList reader who's found a dream job. Go to maxlist.org/stories. In the meantime, thank you for listening to today's bonus episode of Find Your Dream Job. This is Mac Pritchard again. I hope you enjoyed this interview from our archives. Please join us next week as we share through March 3rd some of our most popular interviews from the last 5 years. And thank you for being a listener.